going to start recording. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another BizzyWebinar. Delighted to have you all with us. And I'm so excited to get access to the absolute pro. Trygve is one of our absolute best presenters and trainers on sales techniques and really dealing with objections and handling things. If you don't know Trygve, you probably aren't part of the HubSpot community because Trygve is very well known. He actually presents at a monthly office hours on sales techniques with Kyle Jepson, who is at HubSpot and a sales academy leader. And he's also the director and leader of pipeline generation boot camps for HubSpot, which is a very targeted program that's built for HubSpot users and for HubSpot partners to sell more. So Trygve's been around at BizzyWeb since 2012, am I right?
2014.
14. And so over the past 8 years, he's directed and closed millions and millions of dollars in revenue for our business. And I'm so delighted to have you, sir. How are you?
Thanks, Dave. Longtime fan of the show.
See, perfect. That's what we like.
So Dave, I think one of the things that we're experiencing a lot right now is everybody's sort of in the same boat, which is, and maybe this is sort of a unique Minnesotan thing, is everybody sort of gets back to school and everybody gets back to routine. And, you know, we get the kid picture day stuff and, and then make sure everything's charged. And then we sort of get back into the routine of things now that we're through summer. And then all of a sudden, somebody says, hey, third quarter's ending.
Oh, yeah.
And everybody goes, oh, crap. Now we still have stuff to do. Mm-hmm. So that's what we're going to talk about today is how do we really, all those opportunities that have just sort of sat there and have been a little stagnating in the third quarter and over the summer, how do we get them from not yet to, yep, let's go. And that's what we titled our show today.
Perfect. And for our attendees, if you'd like to ask questions, you can use the Q&A tool. Or I'm thinking since we're broadcasting live to YouTube as well, we might not be able to use chat, but give it a shot if you have something specific. If you can't get in through chat, just use the Q&A tool. And I'm also watching the chat on the YouTube channel at youtube.com/BizzyWeb.
Fantastic. So if you aren't familiar with BizzyWeb, we're a full-service growth marketing agency. We are not the kind of guys you call to do the first thing. We're the kind of guys you call to do the next group. So we take companies from good to great, and we work to improve all of the different tactical things that come into marketing, things like content, things like SEO, and we use them to actually try and work and grow businesses and give them actual tangible physical results. So we're a Grow with Google partner. That's one of the things that Dave is really good at. We're also a HubSpot solutions provider at the platinum level. So we're pretty good at that too. And I think we are one of the only organizations in the world that has 3 HubSpot trainers on staff, not 1, not 2, but 3 HubSpot trainers. So we know our stuff pretty well, wouldn't you say, Dave?
Yeah, absolutely, yes. Mr. Olson.
Excellent. So here's the 4 things that we're going to talk about today and how we're going to break this down. Number 1 is the most important thing is why won't they say yes? You've gone through the process. You've said everything that works, everything that needs to be done. And why won't they just say yes? Then we're going to talk a little bit about some of the common objections that are sort of universal and how to deal with them and how to be sell with a certain amount of empathy. Third is identifying a champion within an organization. And then last, how to get past the dreaded gatekeeper, which is actually kind of fun when you get down to it. So the first question is, well, what do you mean no? Or what do you mean no? How can you say no? I've gone through my process, my patented sales process. I've organically grown this process through trial and error through years and years and years. And how can people, what do you mean? How can you say no? what that really means is probably not right now. And so a lot of times what we see is what we refer to as the Minnesota goodbye, which is a lot of times people will say, well, I don't know, or let me think about it, or let me get back to you. Let me can you send me a proposal? Let me talk with the team. We need to make a decision. Yeah, this is really important, and we really need to figure out how to do this. That's the worst one, right? Is when they make this declarative statement. Yeah, we really need to do this. And then they don't do anything. And you say, oh, come on. You say, oh, or they say, oh, it's great. But, and then they give you sort of just a random thing that you don't really know what to do with. And so when that happens, what it really means is something is not fully on board and fully ready to go. So really, any objection that you get really means in some way it means not right now, and something in the process, either there's a hard barrier that you have to figure out, identify, and work around, or you haven't doubled down enough on the value. So what do you do with it? Well, first of all, realize that sometimes people are just bad at saying no, and so if they really don't feel like it, you can give them the opportunity, and you can say, is this just really not a good fit for you? And sometimes if you just open and honestly ask the question, is this just not a thing that you think is going to make a difference for you? Sometimes they're just going to say, yeah. And if they do, great. That's not an opportunity to continue to ask more questions, because salespeople, especially bad salespeople, Dave, they love to ask more questions, and they want to get to the no, and then let me roll out all of my more and more and more things for you, and all my
guise of objection handling or whatever, right?
Yeah, scripted responses. And while in the past that's typically been very, very effective, and there are some objections to be handled that we're going to talk about today. Anybody who's buying anything right now, and I think one of the things that at BizzyWeb we're really trying to trend towards is the idea that we are entering a stage, especially through COVID, of hyper buyer awareness. They are going to do so much more self-directed selling on their own before they even talk to somebody, that when they give you an objection, chances are it really what they're just trying to do is figure out a way out of it. And so sometimes the most important thing is just to realize, hey, not only are they bad at saying no, or they're scared of saying yes. And you can see this occasionally, because when you start to wonder about money, when you start talking about money, people, you know darn well they've got the budget. Why don't they say yes? Well, it's not even their money, Dave. Why aren't they saying yes? They've got the money. It's just sitting right there. They told me they had it. It's because the cost of saying yes is more frightful than losing the money in the company budget. Right. So what you have to do there again is keep thinking. The third thing that you see a lot, especially as it relates to this, is a lot of times people are afraid of really being bold, and are they really allowed to take this move? Right. And that's one of the things that even I struggle with. I'm on the leadership team at BizzyWeb, and I would say anytime I ask to do something, 2 times out of 5, my boss says, "Why are you asking me? Why didn't you just do it? That sounds like a good idea. Why didn't you just do it?" And ultimately, what they get to is they're scared of taking a loss, and they're not scared of they're playing out all those scenarios in their head of if they do this thing with you, what bad thing will happen as a result of that. And so they're doing it all in their head, and they're not going to talk to you about it. So the best way, the thing that you can do is, don't go to a pre-subscribed, pre-notion list of what exactly you're going to go through and how exactly you're going to win the objection battle. Because a lot of times salespeople especially think of this as a battle. Oh, if I can just be the most clever person in the world, then it's going to be, then I'm going to win the day and I'm going to win the business. Well, you only win the business if you do it together with somebody. And so in the scenario we're talking about, where they're ghosting you, they're not talking with you, they're giving you that long Minnesota goodbye, it's time to keep digging. And it's time to start digging more on an emotional level.
Right. Well, and especially at the very beginning, and I think this is where a lot of salespeople get caught up. They're trying to go right for the close immediately, and or trying to let their scripts just follow it step by step by step, and they're not listening and they're not having a conversation.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times what I coach folks to do when I'm having that conversation is your first objective is to build a relationship with a person. And it doesn't have to be a deep relationship. You're not going to be talking or doing each other's hair over whatever, but your literal job as a salesperson for most B2B is to forge some sort of a trust so that people understand that you're on their side.
Yeah.
And so asking
the word you're looking for is advisor.
Advisor, absolutely. So you're trying to be that trusted advisor for them. And a lot of times trusted advisors will tell a person we're not the right fit. And you have to start that and say, we might not be the perfect fit for you, but what I'm going to do is ask you a bunch of questions, and we're going to figure out together if what I can do is going to be helpful for you.
And really, as a salesperson, what you have to do is you have to be authentic in that. If you're not a good fit, it's not a question of then, can you get this person to say yes? It's what's going to happen to the people behind you 2, 3, 6 months down the road. Are they going to be happy? Are they going to feel like they can work with this person? Right. So what I wanted to sort of get to next is, again, what are the motivations behind people throwing those sort of weird objections that you don't really know to? And there's a couple of things that I think of when people talk to me about that, is they really might not know what the problem is. They might not really be able to identify it. It's kind of like, when I talk to my 8-year-old, he doesn't necessarily have the words for what he's scared of. And that's not to say that people who are saying yes to me right now, if you're listening, it's okay. I'm not saying you're like my 8-year-old. They might just genuinely don't know. There's something in their gut that's saying not yet. And that's okay. Work with it, work with them, and continue to talk with them and talk through it. Which really just fundamentally means you're not done selling. And it just means that you have to double back and talk more about and help them suss out what is the issue and what is the concern that's really preventing them from saying yes. So one of the good questions that I ask is, have I said anything that would scare you off from saying yes to work together? The other thing to keep in mind is they might just not tell you. I think, Dave, you eloquently talked about building a relationship with somebody, and part of that is trust. And if they don't trust that they can share that information with you without you feeling like you're going to go into objection handling, they're just simply not going to tell you, and then they're going to be quiet.
Right.
And again, ultimately, they're scared of losing. Losing really is one of those enigmatic words in the English language, because it means something different to everybody else. And one of the things that we talk about in our sales process at BizzyWeb is, what does winning mean to you? What does success mean to you? Not only from a company, but also from an individual standpoint. If we do this, how is this going to affect you, positive or negative? So ultimately, if you're at this point, they haven't said yes yet because they don't see it yet. And when I say they don't see it yet, the analogy that I wanted to sort of bring to the forefront is staging a house. If you stage a house, one of the things that your real estate agent will tell you is get all your stuff out of there and make it be as generic and vanilla as possible. And that's because what you want to do is you want that potential buyer to view their own stuff in that own space. And that you want them to start imagining, how is this going to make my life better if I live here? And I think the same holds true in as an analogy for dealing with objections or ghosts, is they haven't seen themselves in your house yet. And they haven't seen how the product you offer, the service you offer, the thing that you're trying to work with them on is going to be making their lives better or easier. And so double back, talk to them more. You're not really done selling. And how do you do that? Well, the most common thing that we counsel people on and how we tend to operate ourselves is just help. And sometimes people need a little push, like a little elbow and nudge forward, not a push off the cliff.
Right.
And I think in this day and age of the hyper aware buyer, they're going to know if they're getting pushed off a cliff. So a common way to just back this down is say, is this resonating with you? And then listen.
Right.
And let that awkward pause just sit there and wait for them to fill in the space. One of the questions that I ask people is I usually make a big giant preamble about this. And I say, well, okay, Dave, I'm going to ask you this big giant salesy question. I'm going to put on my checkered sports coat. Are you ready? And the question I ask is, where do you want to go from here? Not where do I want to go? Because what I want to go is immaterial, because ultimately what I'm trying to do is advise you on what's best for you. Mm-hmm. I want you to say yes and get your checkbook out. That's pretty obvious, but that's not the best thing for you. So where do we go from here? Conversely, some of the questions that you can sort of push a little bit on your buyer, and really what's an appropriate level of pushing. There's two really that I think are sort of relevant. Number one is if they say, well, let's talk next month. And you say, okay, great. What's going to happen next month that's going to change how we're going to solve the problem? And they're never really going to give you a good answer to that, but it's a little bit of a push that you can say, hey, the problem's still going to be here in a month. So if you want to wait, great, we can wait. Mm-hmm. Another question to ask people, which I think is really helpful, is the question I have on screen here, which is, what happens if we don't do anything? If this problem is hurting you to the extent that you're looking at for research, you're talking to people, you're investing the time and trying to come up with a solution. If we don't do anything, what happens then? And we find this, especially when it comes to people who come to us with websites. Sometimes they say, well, I just want something that looks newer. Okay, well, that's fine. That's not a pushing reason to really invest in building a new website. If you're not making a lot of money from your website, that's a much more compelling reason why you should do that. So, much to your point, Dave, about how we're not always a good fit. If somebody just wants to spruce up and have, a fresh coat of paint on a website, we're not really a good fit for them. But if they're wanting to get more out of it than just a fresh coat of paint, then we are a better fit for them. So what are some of the common objections that we hear all the time? And what are the common things that we see? And this is universal. This isn't just how we are at BizzyWeb. Most importantly, I think is to get back to this fundamental idea is in sales and in marketing, you are essentially a baseball pitcher. You can win or lose the game on your own. And if you're doing that, what you're constantly being evaluated on is what kind of customer experience are you offering? To put another way is there's three parts to the sales process. Number one is identification of what a problem is. Number two is identifying potential solutions to the problem. And then three is picking the solution. So throughout the entire process, that hyper-aware buyer that I talked about is not really sure that they have a problem. They're not really sure what the solutions are, and they're not really sure if they want you to be the one to help them solve it. So the best thing you can do is be genuine and human and give them a great customer experience all the way through. So some of the keys to answering objections on objections overall is, first of all, realize they're not always real objections. What they're saying versus what they're really feeling are often two different things. And if you understand that, then if they're blustery, if they say something that you don't really understand, that's okay. You can just say, tell me more about that. You do that by not getting real flustered. and just realize that they're in a different emotional state than you are. So leverage pausing, smiling, and then have good questions or answers to respond with. So what do we do that? Well, we try and anticipate what some of the standard objections are, and we have some answers for them. And we talk about them first by affirming really what you're dealing with. So a lot of times what we'll say is, we get that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And just let it pause.
Right. And again, we're going back. This is all part of a conversation, right, Trygve?
Yeah.
It's not like you're just rattling off a script and then they say, but, and then you're like, well, on page 13, it says here. Oh.
Hold on. Let me catch up. You're 3 pages ahead of me. Flip. No.
Yeah, exactly.
No. So starting with some empathy is really going to help.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's why building the rapport is important at the beginning. Right.
Yeah. And ultimately, really what you come down to is what we call the chin stroke question, which is, if you really don't know what they're talking about, and you're really not sure what they're which end is up, just stroke your chin a little and say, can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Mm-hmm.
Unpack it a little. Explain it to me more. Explain it to me like I'm an 8-year-old. Explain it to me like I'm a 5-year-old even. Because what you're trying to do is get to the point where you're realizing that where are they really coming from in this scenario? And is the objection that they're talking about, is this a real objection that you can help them solve, or are they covering up for something else?
Right.
So some of the standard objections that we hear all the time is, well, why are you calling me? That's really more of the first part of the process. We just really don't have any money. We can't do this. We have a vendor already, and as much as I don't like them, I have got to stick with them. Or, no, sorry, we don't need help. That's my favorite thing, is if somebody is actively looking and needing help, and then you call them up and they say, no, we don't need help. Or please send me some information, or please send me a proposal. That's a great one. So let's break that down a little. So, why are you calling me? That's a person's really what they're saying is, I'm not really interested in this. So, what I do say, it sounds like this isn't a good fit for you, or this is a concern. So you say, it doesn't sound like you were ready for this, or this was a concern. So if I'm talking to them, I want to be respectful of time. Usually if somebody's really jumping on me like that and say, why are you calling me? Something else is going on. Say, okay, is this a bad time to connect, or do you have 2 minutes? You say, well, what is this about? Why are you calling me right now? Again, they've got our whole thing going on right now, and if they're being brusque with me, it's not because they're mad at me. It's just they're mad today. So I just say I'm calling to help, and then try and reverberate back. We talked a couple of weeks ago about this, that, and the other thing, and I wanted to reconnect on that, see where you are with that. This is another good one. This is kind of what you and I had come up with as the crux of this. Is timing's really off. Call me in 6 months, and I'm not really sure where to go. Okay, great. If I call you in 6 months, do you think we're going to be ready to go? And they'll say, oh, yep, totally. You don't let it go. Then you say, what can I do to help in the interim? So you've already established a rapport. You've already taken the next steps. Okay, so what do we do more, and how do we help? How do we help in the meantime? You're not being argumentative at that point, and you're not being annoying. You're just trying to help and anticipate some of the standard objections that you're going to get already. So then, some of the things that we say is, can I send you a report on how to improve your website, if that's something we've talked about? Or can I give you some hard data around to help make the case internally? So then when we circle back around, you have more support in where you're at. A lot of times what we see, especially in the sales and marketing arena, is they might just be getting beat in the marketplace. And so Sometimes people just really aren't focusing on what are their competitors doing in the marketplace. So what if we talked about that? If we are trying to figure out why we should do something, let's figure out what your competitors are doing and see whether or not you measure up. A lot of times people don't necessarily consider that. And this is a great one. This is how to creating a competitive advantage. So would you like me to come up with a couple of different ways that I can help you create a competitive advantage? Maybe that's a personal thing, maybe that's a professional thing, but ultimately what we're trying to do is work with our customer and get them to realize, hey, it's time to really buckle down and really try to go again. This is one that I think you and I have problems with all the time, where people, after about 15 minutes, they'll say, oh, okay, well, can you just send me a proposal? Mm-hmm. Or I get this when I connect with people on LinkedIn and I say, hey, I just try and talk with them, then just send me a proposal, which is kind of a brush off. And that's okay. It's a brush off, but I don't really know what kind of information you want. So my first information is going to be, okay, what would you like me to send? What would you like as part of the proposal? And then all of a sudden we're back to what exactly is the issue? Because I don't know what the issue is. At BizzyWeb, we sell like 12 things and we do like 14 things pretty well. Nobody needs all of them. Mm-hmm. So I'm just guessing if I send you a proposal, and that's not helpful to me, or it's helpful to anybody if I just send you some general thing. So if you send something, one of the things that we see really that's incredibly helpful is having the ability to track that information. So if we send a document over, do I know when you've opened it? Can I track when you've opened it? So then I can follow up and have the next conversation. And I say, what's the best way to deliver it to you? Do you like text? A lot of people have gone to text, especially in through the pandemic, to have to be working in a hybrid environment. So ask that question. Again, we're trying to get into what's best for the person and not what's necessarily what's best for me. One of the things that we really like doing at BizzyWeb and sales department, and also things that we talk to people about, is having creating a video email. So one of the things that, especially as a trainer, what I have to do is sometimes explain to people some complicated things that involve a couple of different screens. And 15 years ago, I had to write a 4-paragraph email. And then we got to the point where we could do screen sharing, but not everybody has time to wait for a screen share. Yeah. So what I use as a really effective tool is just start the camera rolling and start videotaping myself, and I'll walk somebody through a process, which is usually very, very helpful. And if so, then you're really in for a treat. Have you done this? And then say, well, wait, do you guys use video? Because if I can show you something cool that we do that you don't necessarily do, then all of a sudden I've piqued your interest again. Because now I have something that's helpful that I want to share with you, not that I'm trying to sell to you.
Yeah, and it kind of points back to being that helpful resource, right? Because you have something that you're good at, or that you know, or that you do, and maybe it doesn't even directly revolve around what you connect with. Because we have clients in B2B services all over the spectrum.
Absolutely.
Having a little tool like this that doesn't talk at all, or doesn't directly refer at all to anything that you're trying to sell, that you're trying to do, is just like, oh, I got this super cool hack. And then it gets them back on your side because they're like, oh yeah, this person really actually just wants to help me.
Yeah, absolutely. I had breakfast with somebody this morning, and 2 weeks ago, I went to a giant marketing conference, and one of the things I have a 2022 business card. So it's a QR code that if you scan it, it will automatically put all of my contact information, including my BizzyWeb phone number, my email, my website. It'll create a contact in your phone. I don't sell that, but if I show somebody that shows that I'm on the forefront of what I'm talking about, what I'm doing, and it gets them interested in terms of taking the next steps.
Sweet.
Yeah. So what are the best responses to objections that you can have is first of all, cool, great, no worries, take a breath, take a beat. and really listen to what they're having, what they're coming back to you at. Because if they're coming back to you with something, you can validate the problem. And you say, I hear that a lot. That's something we deal with all the time. Because then all of a sudden you're getting back to a much more micro sale. So you've talked about the macro sale, but now you've got that one sale and they haven't really told you what the problem is. You're working on developing what that problem is. So the first thing you can do is validate, yes, the problem that you're talking about it is something that we see all the time. Just to take it down just a little bit. And then you say the magic word, which is we're happy to help. You know, it's not always 100%, but we can do whatever we can to help. And this is a question that I like, that I use all the time, is how can I be of service? Because I know sometimes for some people, help is a bad word. I don't need help. I need a solution. And sometimes help puts people, there's a theory that help puts you on a different level. So you say, well, how can I help? Or what were you looking for help with? People say, I don't need help. I need solutions. I need to go. Okay, great. So what I've tried to do is, instead of say help as much, I say service. How can I be of service?
Love it.
So then I'm talking more about how do I make your life better? And I'm not putting myself on a different plane. Ultimately, what we're really looking for in a B2B sales environment is we're looking for a champion and somebody who can help. And so what do I mean when I say a champion? The champion is the person at the company who wants the customer to purchase your product or service. So that might be the end user, it might not. And it might be the money person, but it might not. Sometimes the primary economic buyer is a different person in the company who can sign off on what to do. So when you're looking for that champion, it's important to figure out who is the person that can most benefit from working with you, and make sure that they're part of the process and they're heard. You know, if you're talking about selling, you know, like one of the things we do is we work with HubSpot, and a lot of times that gets used by marketers, but the person who benefits the most from that may be the marketing team who just needs some help to make their tool set move faster, or it might be the sales team who just need better quality leads. Mm-hmm. So having a sales champion who says, yes, let that person buy that thing, then you're really cooking with gas.
Right.
So making sure you've identified the champion is great. If you know who that champion is, that's really going to help you in your sales process all the way around. But a lot of times what you end up hitting more than anything is the gatekeeper.
Dun, dun, dun.
And that's that dreaded person who is going to prevent you from connecting with the right person. So what exactly is a gatekeeper? Too much. It's that person who says, oh, I'm sorry, Dave's in a meeting right now. And Dave's never out of a meeting. How are we ever going to talk to Dave if Dave's always in a meeting? So a couple of things to keep in mind is, number one, if you're talking with a gatekeeper, the job's demanding because they have to say no to almost everybody. There's very little respect, because they're usually the first person that's on the phone and somebody's immediately trying to get by them. So number one, the first and foremost, the most important thing you can do with a gatekeeper is treat them like a human being. They are part of the process. More often than not, you see CEOs coming out and talking to the gatekeepers and asking, how did that person come in? They came in, how well did they treat you? Were they nice? Were they respectful? So it's a tough job. So never be rude, never be condescending. I always try and ask what their name is. If they're doing a really great job, if I ever get in touch with the person I'm trying to talk to, I always make sure to say, hey, Victoria is doing a fantastic job. And then when I call back, I talk to them as a person. Victoria, great. It's nice to meet you. Thank you so much for picking up the phone. And then when I talk to them, I always want to give them a reason to let me by. So I say, oh, I'm looking for Dave. I'm not looking for Dave Meyer. I'm not looking for the president. I'm hey, can I talk to Dave? I want that gatekeeper to think that we're buds. And so if we're on a first name basis, that sometimes helps me get through a little bit quicker. So if you don't know the name of the person you're supposed to talk to at the company, you shouldn't be approaching the company. By this point in the process, you should know who they are. And if they're not taking your calls, then you go to the third question. So you've made friends with the gatekeeper, you know what their name is. So you've called a couple of times and, oh, Dave's in a meeting. The next question is, when is Dave not in a meeting? I'm going to bring something by. I want to make sure he gets it. And they're going to be like, oh boy, that's not good. What do you mean you're going to come to my office? And be like, geez, I don't know. And that's okay, because now you got another sale to make, because now the gatekeeper is throwing an objection and they're not going to tell you the information you want. So you have to make friends with them. So one of the things that I do all the time, which sometimes people think is a little weird, is I'll go buy a dozen donuts and I'll bring it and I'll give it to Victoria. And she'll be, well, what do I need with a dozen donuts? I don't need these. I don't eat donuts. They're not for you, Victoria. You brought donuts for the office. And then you leave. Because you've given her a gift. Now everybody's going to think she brought donuts and she's going to be cool. So when you call again, you say, hey, I'm looking for Dave. Oh, Dave's in a meeting. Did Dave like the donuts? Oh, that was so nice of you. So you're giving her, it's another common thing to talk about and a common way to sort of get back through the door. So when you're dealing with those gatekeepers, understand they've got a job to do. Be nice and respectful to them. That person is doing a job, and if they haven't let you through, well, they're doing their job pretty well. So you have to be respectful for them. Include them in on the process. Explain to them why you're talking. Explain to them the differentiating value that you're wanting to offer the company, and say, and start talking to them. Hey, is this something you guys you could use? Well, yeah, that's why I'm trying to get a hold of Dave. When is it better for the late afternoon or early afternoon to talk to Dave? None of these things that I'm asking, or none of these techniques that I'm advocating for, are particularly insidious or particularly clever. They're just trying to be nice and upfront with people and genuine. Because that's really the only way that you get anywhere in 2022, is just by being really genuine and genuinely helpful. And so if that gatekeeper continues to be a problem, that's fine. Turn them into an ally, because now this is your first sale. The more they can be helpful to you, the better off it's going to be, and the more they're going to take it to the next level. How am I doing so far, Dave?
Love it. And, I think if we get a couple of minutes at the end, I think that I want you to maybe share the Rose story and how you get by people that are especially stubborn on that.
Sure.
But the common theme that I keep hearing is interact with people like they're humans and try to help solve problems versus sell something. I mean, you're not selling anything other than the opportunity to get on their level and to make them a hero. Yeah.
At the end of the day, what I'm selling at BizzyWeb is I'm selling a service. I'm not selling any particular thing. You can't point to that box and say that's what you get from BizzyWeb. What I'm selling is the opportunity to have a whole lot of people work with you in order to make your lives better. So you talk about outcomes and you talk about things, but you're realistic in how you talk to people. And because everybody's promising the world right now. And you find this especially in like SEO. People say, oh man, I can make you number one on Google in better part of a week.
Great. As they misspell your business name.
Which is absolutely true. They can make you on number one on Google in the better part of the week, but they're going to make you number one on Google for something that has absolutely nothing to do with your business, that nobody looks for.
Right.
So there's a difference between being right and being successful. So a couple of points that I wanted to bring up just as sort of solution. Sales are going to happen when they're ready. And even the best salespeople in 2022, you can't push too hard, because if you push too hard, then people are going to just say no and they're going to walk away, because they're hyper aware and they're scared of losing. So the better thing you can do is be friends with them. If they're not ready, don't quit. Don't give up on it. Don't stop calling. One of the things that is a great practice for sales teams is continually calling and dealing your close lost every 3-6 months. Sometimes to change a person. Sometimes if you've been calling the same person for a while and they haven't moved anything, great. Let's switch them up. Third is keep providing them with a really great experience. No matter what, even if they say no, that's not an opportunity to be mean and say, oh, no, sorry, see you later. Always be nice as everyone can to the process, because anytime in the sales process you are on site or dealing with anybody who's part of a company, you are on stage and you are being evaluated as to whether or not you can be helpful or not. Mm-hmm. And if the answer is no, then everybody loses. If the third baseman's bad, then the whole team's going to go down. Mm-hmm. So we wanted to be a little bit helpful. So as our last little bit before we left, we have a handy guide for driving new leads in 2022 and 2023. You can visit bit.ly/BizzyBook. This is a great handy guide for developing more leads. And something that we put together at BizzyWeb. It's our thank you for listening and paying attention. Also, if you're on, if you could do me a personal favor, my 8-year-old son has a YouTube channel that has hundreds of subscribers. So if you've listened this far, please like and subscribe, because he's never hears the end about how his videos get more views than mine. So if you could share this with as many people as possible, I would really appreciate it. But yeah, and then if you want to talk more to me or Dave, we'd love to hear from you. That's odd. I'm wearing that shirt today. Are you wearing that shirt today?
I'm not. I should have thought ahead.
It's funny, in the last 6 years, we've had 2 photo shoots at BizzyWeb. Both times I'm wearing the same shirt. I need to go buy a new shirt, I think.
That's all right. Yeah, if I can help and just kind of add a little bit of extra commentary on here. If you're trying to get into the sales mindset and get past people's objections and really connect with people, here's how I'm able to kind of get my head into the right space. I view myself as a guy walking around with a sandwich in a room full of starving people. And I'm offering them the sandwich. It's like, hey, you want a sandwich? It looks like you're hungry. I've done my research and I know that you're a hungry person. you look, I can hear your tummy rumbling, whatever, right? So if I've identified that person, I know they're hungry. They've stopped by my website. Maybe they're browsing the menu. And so you're not trying to sell them anything. You're offering them the opportunity for something they need. And so if they don't want it, or like, well, you know what? I hate ham sandwiches. No, thanks. Are you going to take that personally? Is it going to ruin your day because they don't like ham sandwiches? No. And better that you say, okay, no problem. I hear there's a turkey club sandwich around the corner. Go ahead and check that out. We don't do that. That's a much better livelihood than telling them, but it's organic, free range ham. And it's got the best stuff on it. It's like, dude, I don't like ham. Or maybe I'm allergic to rye bread or whatever. Right? So don't take it personally.
That's an evolution in any salesperson's role, is to get to the point where they're mature enough to say, you know what, you're right, we're not a good fit for you.
Yeah.
And that's the end of it. And that's so hard to do. I think I've gotten to that point where I can admit if somebody's not a good fit for us. Mm-hmm. But I don't know when I cross that threshold. Everybody talks about it as an important thing in their evolution, but they never really say, there's never really a road sign that says that.
Right. There's a funny little thing about luck too. The better you get at saying no to wrong things, the more right things start happening.
The older I get, the harder I work, the luckier I get.
Mm-hmm. And kind of the karate thing, right? The mind like water. If somebody's throwing a punch at you, it's best to just kind of lay back and get out of the way and not try and push hard against it, because why fight? Just let it go away.
Exactly.
So if you're looking for a way to make real connecting collaborative sales and to really help people, just figure out what hurts for them, figure out how your product and service can solve for that need, and don't take it personally if they just can't see it. It just means that you need to take a couple of steps back, and the next time you pick up the phone, go at it from that perspective. It's like, you know what, I just talked to a guy and he said he was allergic to rye bread, and I totally get that. And what I thought of a couple of minutes ago was that, maybe it would have been better if we just did a different kind of bread. And so we can absolutely give you that, right? Or whatever, right? For what you do. And that's where, that's why I'm excited and I'm happy that we're in B2B services selling, because we're all about helping people to be successful. I want to make whoever I'm talking to look great to their boss.
Yes.
And solve that problem. And so if I'm walking around saying, hey, I'd love to make you look good, cool by you, only a person that just doesn't see the end is going to say no to that.
Yeah, some people think that's a little weird unless you can contextualize that. Hey, can I make you look good today? Why?
Right.
But if you've developed a relationship with somebody and they know that you're trying to help, and you know that they're scared, suddenly looking good becomes more of an interesting proposition.
Yeah. And some will, some won't. So what?
Yep.
And it's okay. I offered you the ham sandwich. You weren't hungry. I thought you were, or you hate ham. Cool by me. So it's just having the mindset of service and helping people. I love your objection handle of saying, how can I be of service instead of how can I help you? And you're not stooping down to help someone. You're connecting with them to be of service, and that's an entirely different thing. I love this, Trygve. Thank you.
Thank you. You bet. And I'm by no means an expert. I think the only way that I've ever gotten to be good at this is just by listening to people and really trying to understand where they're coming from.
Right.
There's no secret Glenn Ross book of objection handling that you're going to win anymore, because people are so hyper aware that they're going to make their own decisions on their own time. You can only really influence the process. Right.
And goodness, if you're not at least tracking your leads as a salesperson, and if you're not at least using a CRM, let's talk about how we can help you with a free tool on that at the very beginning, right? So we rep HubSpot, and that's one of the things that has taught us as much as we know about all this stuff. So if you're struggling, you're saying, Post-it notes and Excel spreadsheets just aren't cutting it anymore, there's a better way. That's my ham sandwich for you today.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Absolutely. Well, Dave, thank you so much for the opportunity to kind of unravel this a little. And
and
all the panelists found this helpful.
We're going to tackle another big one next month, and it's actually coming up pretty quick. If you go to BizzyWeb.com/events, next up is avoid shiny object syndrome.
Oh God, you and I are terrible at that.
That will drive revenue. I am a avowed gadget geek and a marketer, and so I'm going to show you how I and our team helps to just figure out what's actually going to work for you, for a tech stack, of course, but also just kind of marketing jargon in general. All of our clients, including me, get calls from people saying, we can help you do this, we can help you do that, you're sucking at this and we can absolutely figure it out for you. Like, we're going to give you some easy questions to ask to help you verify that it's working.
That'd be great.
October 5
from
11 to 12. We're actually changing up our timing a little bit based on a survey that we sent out to our customers.
So that's next Wednesday, right?
Next Wednesday. It's going to be fantastic. I can't wait.
Cool. Well, thanks, Dave. We'll see you then.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a wonderful day. Talk to you soon.